Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome back to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and another edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene. We get together every couple of weeks, or maybe every 3 weeks in this case, because I've been on vacation out in California, and we have a variety of things to recommend to you, to give us our opinions on, to talk about enjoyments and maybe lack thereof as far as things are concerned, music industry news and notes, and just a wide variety of stuff that we do, and it goes all the way from way back to the start of movie making and the music within to the current day, and some tours and issues that are coming up in the music business, as well as some great documentaries, some recent interviews that have shed light and let us give excuses to talking about everyone from REM to Dylan to Sarah McLachlan, Max Steiner. I'll explain that. And also just the love that music imparts in people's lives, musicians, and the fact that they just love doing it and keep on doing it. That and maybe another thing or two. We'll see how it goes. It's always entertaining. It's always enjoyable with Tim Finn. He's on 90.9 The Bridge. His Facebook page is a fantastic catch, and you can catch his writing here, there, and everywhere as well. And we'll crank it up next. It's Danny and Tim's Music Scene on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Vision.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300.
Hey Kansas City, Joe Spiker, Easton Roofing, back for another beautiful springtime in Kansas City. We are proud to announce our renewed partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kansas City. Starting in 2024, a portion of every job sold will be donated to a cause close to my heart. I was a big, and I encourage you to volunteer. And if you hire us for service on your residential or commercial roof, you'll know that a portion of the profits will go to a great cause. So call us at 913-257-5426. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business to Kansas City's #1 variety podcast, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you. Welcome back, and let's start off with a documentary or two, and one that you have seen that I haven't, and when I hear what it's about and what you think of it, and it's intriguing to me just on the face of it, we'll see if we'll go in that particular direction, and that is the new documentary about Stax Records, a very imposing and important record company, but maybe overshadowed a little bit, obviously, by another one in that vein. Stax documentary is called Soulsville, USA. It's a 4-parter, obviously fairly voluminous, and you have devoured all of it, so that would indicate to me that you thought it was good. And what say you?
Yeah, it's about a lot more than music. Music is the centerpiece. It's about this record store studio in Memphis that a brother and sister opened, and it attracted a lot of musicians because the studio was there. Musicians, black and white. A lot of them became really famous. Booker T and the MGs started there. So it's about the label and all the great artists on the label. It's also a bit of a historical piece because it gets through the civil rights movement. Memphis, of course, was elemental to the civil rights movement in a lot of ways. The garbage strike is addressed here. the assassination of Martin Luther King is addressed here. The kind of, though the black and white musicians were working together, and the store was one of the rare places in Memphis that was integrated, was as far as customers went. As you go through the documentary, you learn that the musicians didn't really mesh other than in the studio, there, which is a really important point that that came up. So there's about how the black guys were saying they didn't really understand what we were going through with the strike or with the death of Dr. King. It was much more painful or powerful than they understood. So there's all that in the background. But also what you get to see is people like Otis Redding. Man, I just have such a deeper appreciation for him now. I don't know why it wasn't significantly deeper than it was, but still a lot about him and what he meant to the label, what he meant to the music world, as young as he was. There's footage from the Monterey Pop Festival that year, and they were the only people of color performing to this sea of hippies who were on all kinds of stuff. I mean, Hendrix was there, but other than that, there was, some of the guys like Richie Havens, but it was primarily, bands that were British and American and white and rock. But there's footage of this crowd watching Otis Redding and his band play. He's like, we were the only people in there. We were the people there who wore suits. Everyone else was wearing whatever outlandish garb they had, or little at all, whatever. It's but they were just, you could see they were just so mesmerized by this music and welcomed it so much. And to the band, it was like, it took them to another place to be welcomed like they were by a completely different audience. That was like the first really magical moment for me. and just watching how the label evolved. Rufus Thomas was the guy who came in and took over and really got a lot of the black musicians to come and play. And the label was huge. It had all these stars. When Otis Redding died, that was huge. It was so sad. Just another person who shouldn't have gotten on a plane one night. And as it goes through, and they're interspersing the history and the civil rights with a lot of things. What's also happening is the major labels are seeing what's going on here. They're seeing what's happening in Motown, and the label just falls prey to just what happened to so many labels and so many black musicians. They ended up just being left with nothing because Atlantic bought them, and at some point the label had like no catalog anymore because they didn't own anything. And that was the really sad part. That's the ending I was alluding to today on Facebook when I just talked about how sour it got at the end and how galling and maddening it is to see what happened. And so it's historic. There's a lot of great music footage. There's a lot of history about the label, a lot of history about America at the time and civil rights and the strife, and even among the white and black musicians. The hotel where King was assassinated was where some of those guys would go and hang out. It was like the one place where blacks and whites could mingle at the bar there. So another reason why what happened there was just a real blow to all of them. So it's serious. It's about more than music, but it's also about the industry and just how damn cutthroat it was and how shameful it is what happened to all those great artists who were pretty much didn't even get a penny on the dollar.
Did it talk at all about maybe a rivalry or whatever with Motown Records and, maybe the difference between how it was operated in Detroit and Memphis at all?
Well, there were two different things. I mean, Motown was also like a finishing school.
Right.
You had to look a certain way. You had to act a certain way and dress a certain way. The songs were of a certain type. This was a little rawer and bluesier, and the soulfulness was a little deeper. So I don't know that they even considered them a rival. It's just
right.
Just more company and maybe helping in some way pave the way for music that was just a little more taproot from that region, and so there wasn't a lot of focus on that.
Let's talk a little bit about we were revisiting in part or in full a couple, not visiting one and revisiting another last night as we tape here on Tuesday. One was Bob Dylan's No Direction Home, the 2005 documentary, which is outstanding and worth viewing again, and we are. But we were only watching it for a few minutes, or my wife was, because I was upstairs getting set, and we were going to watch the entire documentary I'll get to next. But the part that we got to right before we switched off and moved to the other one is the part where, of course, Dylan goes electric, and they talked about a concert at the U.S. Open venue in Forest Park, New York, and he got booed off the stage. And I mean, this happened more than once, and they would get to the certain point where he would switch from the old to the trying to be new. Very courageous thing to do, especially for a person who I think had a keen business sense and, in his early days and maybe forever. But just seemed curious in thinking back to it if you would think of anything, or you could think of anything. I mean, I don't think there was much of a backlash when the Beatles kind of changed their scene. Maybe it was a little bit, but I mean, this was maybe even more different and maybe more organic or whatever. I was just curious because I was thinking about it, and I wanted to get your opinion, in viewing that documentary or in just thinking about it, about the times and why that would be such a huge deal, and also a reflection of the fact that Dylan was such a huge deal.
Yeah, it was a sea change for him. He decided that he didn't want to be just folky. He wanted to do something more dynamic musically, louder. That's where everything was going. I mean, we know that it was not like it's something he could have resisted. And just when he decided to do it, I think it was really unexpected, and it was so unlike what he had been doing. Although, I mean, it was just lyrically, it wasn't a big leap.
Right.
His lyrics were pretty much the same. It's just the way he performed them and electrified them. And it was galling to the people at the folk festivals and all the whatever folk in the folk network. What are you doing? The Pete Seegers and the like. Who, it was blasphemy. It was a sin. Like, this isn't who we are. And who do you think you are for doing it? And he's like, I am who I am, but I'll see you later because this is what I'm doing. And doesn't mean I'll never write an acoustic song or a ballad, but no, this is where music's going. This is what excites me. So it was bold. He took a lot of heat for it. The famous show in London where people were calling him Judas. He knew it was going to happen. But he said, well, it's going to happen sooner or later, so it might as well happen now. Let's get it behind me. And that's what he did. So, yeah, it was an unavoidable and inevitable moment. But even given that, when it happened, it was shocking.
The thing about it is that, so many of Dylan's songs have been played in many different ways. I mean, maybe some of the people who were thinking about it, if you were the Christy Minstrels or Peter, Paul and Mary or something, your songs probably wouldn't translate to something else. But obviously, as we saw, many of Dylan's songs that were originally done as not maybe folk songs, but as acoustic songs, translated incredibly well to being rock and roll songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just who we started hanging out with, including the Beatles, and Robbie Robertson and the band, and all that absolutely changed his perspective on how he wanted to approach music. And I don't really know that his songwriting changed drastically. I mean,
right.
He's writing with different parts in mind, but I just heard him say something the other day. He goes, I'm not a songwriter like Paul Simon or Stevie Wonder. I write folk songs or, stories and poems, and then they're set to music. So, I don't know that the music is secondary. The sound is as important, like the arrangements and all that became really important. Didn't want just Dylan and a harmonica. He wanted something, he wanted to be heard because the noise was getting louder everywhere, and he just wanted to be part of it.
Well, he certainly was part of it, and he was obviously a generational change, and maybe something that's for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe it was reflected in the fact that we did a lot of Hollywood-themed things when I was in Los Angeles, including touring the Warner Brothers